startup orar.
Good afternoon. Welcome for one more ESTA Porto 2020 pre-season meeting. Today, I'm speaking to you from the concert hall, Casa da Música. I just finished a rehearsal and we will play in the hall next Tuesday with my quartet. It's a nice feeling after the lockdown and what we will call the medium lockdown now. Today, as usual, we are here to meet our speakers. Join us for the chat is the title of our meetings. And we have with us a very, very, very special guest today because she was the responsible and, well, the host of the past amazing conference in Cremona. Everybody knows ESTA, European String Teachers Association, is a very old association that unify all the string teachers that love music and teaching. And all around Europe, there are ESTA branches or national ESTA branches, and each one is able to apply to organize a conference. We did it 5 years ago, and that's why we are running all these meetings. That it was for us to organize the conference last April during the lockdown period. We're still alive to do the conference now, thinking after summer, and we are in this pre-season time and to give us a great opportunity to know a little bit more all the presenters that will join us in the conference after the summer. Gilles, now president of the ESTA Italy, the Italian branch of the European String Teachers Association, was also applied to organize the conference, and she did it in 2019. Hi, Gilles.
Hi, George. Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much for all your work. Thank you for all the messages you spread and all the videos you did, all the great things you could do for us. So first of all, thank you. It was very beautiful to see everything in Cremona. Do you want to share with us a little bit about you? How did you find ESTA? How did you find ESTA Italy? Because I think you are not Italian. Is that true?
Yes, you can tell by my name that I'm not Italian. Born and bred. I was born and grew up in Australia and came to Europe when I was about 20 and freelanced. I had a wonderful Hungarian viola teacher who'd studied with Hubai. I had him in Sydney. I left for England, which of course, English speaking, when I was about 20. I freelanced in London, then in Vienna on the viola while I studied singing. I had a short time as an opera singer as well, which I'm finding more and more useful as the years go on. And ended up in Italy, where I've lived and worked and now call home for the last 40 odd years. So make of it what you will. And in the end, actually thanks to Bruno Giuranna, who was then president of ESTA Italy, I got to know ESTA Italy and went to my first conference in Cremona in 2007. And since then, I've been going to practically every conference. I missed a couple through obviously serious reasons why I couldn't go, but it became a strong point for me because I think one of the great things about the conferences is that every country does it differently. Every country has different resources. Every country has a different system of musical education. And and even just ways of seeing the same thing done or said, or same approach, the same method, but in every country it's done in a different way. There's a different approach, and I think that's wonderful feedback. Even with things there are lots of things that remind you, maybe you've forgotten. And of course, I think the conferences, the live conferences are wonderful, because that's where you really get to know people and make contacts, which is quite different from, just knowing them from emails or whatever. Having said this, I want to compliment Esta Portugal for their resourcefulness and for the fact that they managed to turn a potential disaster into a wonderful learning curve, I think, for all of us. I think it's going to have a big effect on the future of Esta, because we've suddenly realized that we can keep in touch during the year, not just at the Esta conferences, which are always they're wonderful. And of course you say, oh, it's so wonderful, we've met and we've got together, we have to keep in touch, and you don't. So I think the fact that you've organized these chats each week, I see lots of people I only see once a year, maybe once every 2 years. So I'm very happy to be able to do that. And of course, the way that you're doing so much with technology, and that seems to be, you're already on the way, as with certain other Estas, or Esta sections. And so you could really get it moving, and who would have thought this a year ago, that people would be teaching online, or that technological systems would become necessary, not just a choice. Okay, so my compliments absolutely to
Thank
Esta
you.
Portugal.
Thank you very much. I answer in the name of the team. Maybe another opportunity to present the team and to also thank the Portuguese team. They are with us: Emilia Alves, Mariana Moraes, Hazel Vitch, Clarissa Folletto, and Ana Alves, the principal helpers and workers and creative workers, amazing workers that do everything. I could not speak a word without them. They are my full 100% support. Thank you. Okay, for the people that maybe never was in the conference, what could you say, Gil? How many events were in Cremona?
Well, I have to be honest, I had to kind of do the conference very quickly. I didn't have very many months to put it together. And there were quite a few logistical problems. I also wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have the amazing, really amazing support of the Chamber of Commerce in Cremona, and the town council. They had their technical officers working for me for documents, permits. We had a big event, so that meant local police. I mean, I can't tell you. And they threw themselves in as if they were working for Esta. So I really can't thank them enough. I knew the expectations were high for Cremona, because of course it's considered the mecca of string playing. And there'd been a wonderful congress there in 2007. So our congress had to be different, but had to be very rich, very important. We also had financial support from a local foundation, which was a big help. And of course, it happened to be the 100th anniversary of Thomas Dick. So they actually supported us amazingly by covering most of the costs of the Igudisman event. Universal Editions, again, the same thing. They put the parts online. They were amazing. So the sponsors really answered the call and did it in a very short time. As I said, we had to organize everything in a very, very brief amount
Big
of time.
thanks for all the sponsors.
Exactly. So I practically moved to Cremona. But I had all these wonderful people who were helping me. There were some problems because, of course, we wanted to make the conference as rich on every level because they're every level of
Yeah,
teaching.
but tell us, Gilles, tell us how many events were there?
Well, I really don't know, because at a certain point, I realize that when I go to conferences and there are two things on at the same time, often I'm interested in both of them, because you find that, even if you're an upper string player, you want to hear something from the lower strings, especially if you're a violist. So I decided that only in exceptional cases would I have two things on at the same time. The hall we were using, we couldn't open until 10 in the morning. So unfortunately, I would have liked to begin the day with some sort of physical sort of relaxation. But of course, if you can't start till 10 in the morning, I think we ended up starting at 9. But, we would have had to start early if we wanted to fit that in as well. So unfortunately, there were things I couldn't fit in. Then, of course, anybody who comes to Italy, it's very important that they have a good lunch break. Everybody was just as interested in lunch and dinner as they were, I think, in the events. But unfortunately, we just couldn't have fitted everything in. So I had to have lunchtime talks and let people decide what they wanted to skip or cut short, depending on what they were interested in. So basically, we had concerts every night. You've got the Casa della Musica, which is fantastic, which I know from the Viola Congress. We had the auditorium of the Museo del Violino, where there were wonderful concerts every night, and lunchtime concerts, and all the rest, practically from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening, were events. Some workshops, if people were presenting, maybe then their workshop in the afternoon, they might have presented something in the morning, their workshop in the afternoon was on when somebody else was giving a presentation. That was as much as I could do. So I don't know, 10 a day. We started on Friday afternoon, about 2, I think, and we ended on the Wednesday. So we that drew it out over more days than usual,
So
2.5 days.
50 events, eh?
Sorry?
At least 50 events.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah, so it's good for people that never was there. They can
Okay.
they go to a conference. They can have like kind of 50 events, 10 events a day, fully very active.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and you did it great in Cremona.
Well, what I was really trying for, as I said, was there was a theme, which was string teaching and inclusion. The only disappointment I had, I wrote a very long letter to all the different Esthers, kind of saying what I felt could be included in any anything they wanted to suggest, anything they wanted to propose. Of course, there were a lot of interesting things, like the teaching of disabled children, the project that Louise Lansdowne does between the UK and South Africa in Soweto, Violet, which is done in Belgium with disadvantaged people. But I was actually hoping that there'd be somebody teaching string playing for retired people. I know so many retired people who suddenly decided, now I want to try it, I mean, I felt there was a lot more, but of course I did go around people trying to say, no, I want more variety in this. The most moving, if you have to know, the most moving, I think everybody would agree with this, the most moving presentation came at the very end on the Tuesday evening with a violinist called Eva Clementi from Sweden. She's called Eva Clementi because her husband is Italian originally, moved to Sweden when he was very young. And she came down with precocious Alzheimer's disease. And when she found out, was absolutely devastated, but suddenly thought, okay, I'll only have a year or so. I want to do what I won't be able to do, what I've always wanted to do and I won't be able to do afterwards. And so she went back. She was a violinist, but she was working in the library, musical library. She went back and started playing the violin, thinking she wouldn't be able to do it for much longer, and discovered that her actual playing of the violin, practicing, actually helped her symptoms. And she gave us an example of that, of how she arrived on stage at the beginning of the talk, played during her presentation, and how she moved completely differently by the end of her talk. All I can say was there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I had the entire audience practically in tears, and I'm thinking, I wonder if this is a sign of success in a conference, that in the end you've got everybody crying.
Wow.
But it was very moving, and it was wonderful, and people are still talking about it. So that was something very special. So besides this theme we also had other underlying themes, as I said, on different levels. So there were the usual traditional ones.
Still, okay, don't forget what you want to say.
Okay.
Keep it for a little bit later.
Okay, sure.
Because, once you said people were crying, I'm sure a lot of people are crying now because they want to know how to improve their sound in 15 minutes. And Attila Pastor, Mr. Attila Pastor, our very special guest, is there.
If you have,
Hi.
You hear me? I don't know, it works.
I hear you very well.
Thank
you.
you
for coming.
Thank you for the invitation. Sorry for being late. I had a wrong link and I could not join on time. I was here on time, but unluckily I didn't.
You are in the perfect time. Okay, so, Mr. Pastor, he is a representative of Thomastic, and Thomastic is a principal sponsor of our conference. So big thanks for Thomastic, and big thanks for Thomastic give us the opportunity to speak about sound and strings. And I think everybody wants to know a lot about that. But please don't say too much, because we should keep some secret things for our conference. So now is time to know about you and to appetize people to learn more in the webinar that you will do in the conference. So I know you are a cellist.
Yes, it's true. That's true, yes. First of all, thank you once again. Also, thank you for your kind words. It's a pleasure for us. It's also an honor that we are also part of your big idea and the ESTA. And of course, I will forward all your greetings and things. And I wanted to tell you today, I wanted to a little bit introduce about myself, maybe some, I think the most important is to meet later in the online presentation. Then it's more easy also to explain the details, the function. In the end, I have a different attitude because I'm cellist. I heard you are a viola player. My wife is viola player. I love viola players. So it's a great pleasure here. And actually, yes, I was trained as a cellist. I studied composition. I did also other stuff. I studied law, lost in life, but very with heart always with the music and very interested in my instrument. So I was experimenting a lot with acoustic, with strings all my life. And it was an accident or a good moment that I was contacted by Thomastic and asked if I want to work with them. It's now 2.5 years since I work with the company, and I learned a lot. It's a different thing when you outside the circle of the people who know how a string is constructed, and then suddenly are inside. And even when you're inside, it's a very complicated topic. And actually, the funny thing is, the moment I started to work with sound and the quality of sound and try to find some kind of system in all the things we use, the words we use, explaining what is a good sound, what is a focused sound, suddenly I had to get a different approach to my own playing. And in my opinion, I feel better playing today. I improved and I get more sensitive to the quality, and change even a little bit my way of playing. That's a very funny thing about. And I suppose the moment you get some information, you will start also to reflect, to experience things you did before without thinking in a new way, in a new light. And suddenly you change because you notice, the string is reacting on things I would never expect before. So that is the history.
And did you already find your perfect set?
This is a very, yeah, I think I found some strings I felt in love. It's really fun.
I guess it's a Thomastic set.
Actually, I have a big respect before other companies, and I played Larsen, I played other products, and now I get some of my old instruments back, and there have been some Pirastro strings. You know, it's a question what you are looking for. Each company has its own philosophy. The philosophy is not only the technical philosophy, it's also a potpourri of color, of the character, of the precision. You can draw a new picture, new landscape. And Thomastic opens for me doors because it has such a rich, colorful panorama of strings, which can open doors, in my opinion. But Larsen also has fantastic strings. It's not about this. It's
no, I was not speaking of brands. No, inside Thomastic.
Inside the company, of course.
Inside the company, are you stable with your perfect set? Or,
no, I'm still looking for something better. All the time experimenting, and just last week I get a string from our technician, and we worked on new coloristics in the sound, and it was fantastic because I never played such a clean and human voice sound before. So I hope we can do it also with the other strings, because it's only the A string yet. So we are going always farther in our development, looking for different options. And you know, it's not the string alone, it's the combination of everything. The instrument must like it. I, as a player, have to be able to work with this. Yeah, it's the resistance, it's the feedback the strings give me, it's the feeling, so many different aspects.
Oh, amazing. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Do you have also some experience in teaching with young?
Quite a lot. Quite a lot. And the nice thing is I was invited by Mr. Trück to Rüdesheim to his festival, and it was a fantastic experience because the level is very high and I love teaching. It's like being on the stage, but on the other side. Yeah, it's so inspiring, and it's for me the nicest moment when I feel I can pass to the musician, the young student, or even to the older ones, something which enrich their playing, which gives a new way of attitude. So it's really great, and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and how that happened? When you see a student, the first thing you see is the strings.
No, no, no. I really had to switch when
maybe you could change your D string, because
you know, the funny thing is, of course, there's a moment where I look at the strings and I look on his way of playing, of his technique, and I feel he's struggling with something. For example, he has some problems with response, or the sound is narrow, and I look on his technique and I think, okay, what he can change? How fast can I pass him information that he has 1 week, for example, to work with me, and he can go to a better level? And of course, when I see the strings are a little bit unusual, yeah, special, and we can do something, then I of course give him hints, yeah, but I separate it, yeah, it's really something I have to separate. But in some way it's a connection, because when you want to improve your technique, you have also to explore the string. You have to look on the string, you have to feel it, to be aware of this, what the string is doing. And this sensitivity keeps you up to a high level when you can use it. Yeah, use like I make some comparison to when you go on a wave. Yeah, you see the big wave and the surfer. The moment you catch the wave, and it's like catching the waves of the string, you can have a big volume and a fantastic sound. The moment you are just pressing against your or fighting against your string or your instrument, yeah, so you are losing this quality, and you are losing the possibility to get this generosity in the sound.
Yeah, of course.
Can I just, because I invited today Mrs. Julia Pasch, who is a very well-known violin maker, and I wanted to introduce her also. I don't want to forget her. And she's so kind and joined our meeting. She studied with Peter Greiner, and she's doing fantastic instruments. And it's also a chance to introduce today.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Very interesting listening to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you know, string makers and instrument makers are always welcome there.
Oh, thank you. That's kind, yeah.
Do you want to say a little word about Thomastic, if you have some experience?
Oh yes, I do. Of course, I'm in Vienna too, so I'm lucky to be close to the production of Thomastic strings, and that's why I love working with their strings. Actually, I'm always working with their strings because they have different. They have this system with tensions, so you can read on the strings which tension you have, and you can adjust a sound also by knowing how much tension you put on the instrument. And you can also adjust, like, do you want some more support for the lower strings or for the higher strings? And by knowing, I mean, it's not only the tension, it's also, of course, the materials, which every string producer would never let you know which materials exactly they use. But for the tension, you know how to use them. And so yeah, it's always a playing around. You can really release the instrument.
I know we all look for the perfect set for the instrument. And
yeah,
for
but that is an interesting thing. Because...
Well, I just have a provocative question.
Yes.
Have you ever thought to make an instrument, the perfect instrument for one kind of strings?
No, that's rolling from.
For example, you love a lot dominant strings from Thomastic, and you say, "I know the instrument for this."
No. I'm not following the string production. I'm using the strings to make the perfect, like to match perfectly to an instrument. But the instrument in the end has to match perfectly to the player, and every player needs another set of strings on the same instrument. You can't really work this way.
This is not the case of the chicken and the egg. Definitely not the chicken and the egg.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, it's not about that. It's rather, and also you have to say that instruments breathe, and you can't really say that when you have one perfect set, it will match the same instrument always. You sometimes have to change the set of strings. Sometimes it's nice to have Eva Pirazzi on a violin, and you have a lot of power and a lot of tension, and at some point it will break, but you have never changed anything. And then you need to use, for example, dominant, like the opposite, and suddenly the instrument opens up completely. So you can really, as a player, you can really adjust yourself, your instrument, by changing strings from time to time.
Yeah, and about that, I think maybe Attila has something special to tell us, because I know there are like department, or I don't know how to say it on how it works, but something called string intelligence. Do you want to say us about that?
You know, it's not easy to put this information in a few sentences. It's like starting to be a philosopher. Maybe I could go a step back. So Thomastic have a special philosophy of doing strings. The idea is to produce strings with a very rich overtone spectrum. So we have a lot of harmonizing frequencies. This is a phenomenon because you don't have it in different ways of doing a string. So different companies have different strong sides. Yeah, some have a very good focus. The other ones have a very creamy sound. And our strings are very unique because of this specificness of the rich overtone spectrum. So this is a phenomenon because the moment the strings reacts on this spectrum, the instrument, it's like a feedback between string and instrument. So if the instrument feels this resonance and can develop, suddenly the strings open up. So like this spectrum is in potential. So it's getting stronger, we can say. On the other hand, the instrument, if they gets the right tension, it's also getting more volume, more resonance, and the string reacts much more. For example, then if the string is constructed in a way where the focus is very dense and yeah, with a very clean sound. So it's very interesting. The moment you have this interaction between the instrument and the string, the player comes to the how to say, to the position, to the side, yeah, to the side, to the position to the side, and feel what aspects in the sound he want to put to a higher, how to say, higher level. Yeah, for example, when he finds some colors which are very light, then it's in his decision to.
How that happens? Do you have a researching department in Thomastic?
No, it's the.
You have a team of researchers. What do you do?
No, yeah, of course we do the research, because what we do to standardize the way of playing. What possibilities to play we have? We have the speed, we have the contact point, we have the pressure, but we have many things like, you know, as a player, it's the combination of all these things which can give the sound a very clean or a very bright or a very soft note. You can play strong and still soft. Yeah, you can play strong and extremely sharp. And the fantastic experience for me was that with different product of our company, and it's because of the way of doing the strings, and it's a special handmade process, the strings really react on this kind of changes extremely strong. So the funny thing is you can have one instrument, one set for this instrument, and each player will sound different. I never experienced this with other companies. So when you play, for example, strings from a fantastic company like Larsen, it sounds beautiful, and all the players sounds very similar, beautiful. But when you choose, for example, a Version solo string, then I could not believe how different the instrument could sound. For example, if somebody loved to play very light, the overtone spectrum was suddenly completely different. The focus was much wider, and this was a very special experience for me. And that's why I liked what Julia Pasch before told. It's the interaction between the string, the player, and the instrument, which is the key. And in my presentation, online presentation, I want to explain step by step the connection between these different parameters in playing. So I mean, really, softer arm, softer wrist, softer combination of hand, and the effect on the string. What is happening? How we produce a more shiny sound, how we produce a more darker sound on the same set. And then we have the possibility to change, yeah, if it doesn't suit the instrument or to the player, because everybody has different kind of pressing, of weight, of using the weight, then you can choose the string because the resistance are different. And the other thing is the tensions. It's all about tensions.
Yeah, that's my experience too. The tension will make open an instrument, like the different tension. You have to find the right tension for the right moment for the right player, and then you can interact also. You can interact with different sets of strings and just put some like higher tension on the higher strings and lower tension on the lower strings, and then you will have like a completely new instrument It's very interesting. It's like moving a soundpost. Same effect.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe now it's time for open the discussion for our group here in Zoom. It's a pleasure to have every week so many people at the Zoom meeting. You know, if you want to be on that meeting, you just need to register for the Conference Porto 2020. Look at our website, Facebook page, it's very easy. Send an email, register, and come to our meetings. If you want to watch us on YouTube, you can also make your questions. Just write on the chat, and we will tell for the speakers and the presenters, and they will answer. So now, if one of us want to make a special question for our guests, Gilles and Attila.
Yeah.
Hazel?
Hello.
I have a question actually about strings. When I moved from England to Portugal, I had to completely change my setup because Portugal is a lot more humid than the UK is. Is that also factored into the work? Because that's a different set of problems. The humidity affects the instrument so much, but it also affects the way that the strings behave. So I was wondering how much that is researched.
Thank you for the question. It's a very important question, and we have in Vienna just one climber, so we don't have the possibility to reproduce these changes in the humidity. And actually, we are working with synthetic materials and metals. So actually, the string itself is not so sensitive to humidity. Of course, when you are in very humid climates, and of course, after certain times, for example, when you are in a climate with 70%, 80% of humidity, then after a few weeks, of course, the string starts also to change. Why? Because we have the upper winding of the string, and in between you have a gap. There is always some possibility where the sweat, and you are sweating when it's humid, you are also sweating, is going through this upper construction to the inner side of the string. And you have to understand that constructing a string is very complicated and is very sensitive. So we have inside the strings up to 8 layers, even 9 when we think about double bass strings. But even when you have just 3 or 4 layers of different materials, we have materials which keep these different layers together. And they are, of course, in some kind sensitive to humidity. This is the one thing, but this is the effect is just after 1-2 months that you really feel a difference. And when you're sweating a lot, and when the acid in the sweat, this is the bigger problem for sure. But when it's about the instrument, the humidity goes to change the carving of the top plate and the tensions also of the sound post. For example, when you are in a more dry climate, the sound post is much tighter than if you are in a more humid climate. So that means when you have the same amount of pressure, the instrument works different. So the humidity is changing the instrument, and that's why it would be good to change also the tension. Now the question would be more tension, less tension. The pity is, if you have, or let's say like this, if you have a product with different tension, then it's more easy to balance this. For the violin, it's quite easy because it's very easy to change the tension of the E string, which change the whole resonance of the instrument. On the viola, we don't have these different options. We have 3, 4, 8 strings, but the difference is not so big. So we have to balance with the G and the C string for the viola. So for example, when you feel the instrument, it's humid, the instrument is getting like a little bit closed, like this, it's good to keep the A and D string and change the G string for a more focused, more how to say, yeah, stronger string. That would give the sound more of this clearness, but of course, it depends how humid it is and how the instrument reacts. That's a big problem. For the cello, you know, I have, as a cellist, I had as a cellist so many different tours, and I was also in Malaysia, solo cellist, and it was terrible because I was in Europe playing on a beautiful instrument, coming to the first rehearsal in the concert hall, and my instrument was like that, yeah?
Yeah.
This is, of course, yeah, this is really bad, yeah? And that's now the question. Some instruments, like, for example, when I increase the tension on the A string, some didn't like. Some like when I put some stronger strings on the lower end, so G and C string. The problem is that we don't have from each product different tensions, and each string has a different characteristics. It's not only the material, it's the construction. So my how to say recommendation would be, in case the instrument is getting in this situation that is getting close and the focus is not clear, the sound is not clear, it's very important to find strings, not if you change the whole set, with not too high tension, but with strings which have a very focused sound, especially in the middle register, and for cello, also in the lower register. That helps a lot. About details, of course, I can tell in the online presentation. It's also an inspiration for me now to add this to the.
Well, that also leads on to, you can think about this then. When you're working in air conditioned conditions, but in a humid country, when you're taking your instrument in and out of dry to damp conditions, and so the instrument's constantly changing, but you need a consistent sound. So that's another thing to think about. That's for another day. I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we see everything is about tension. Yes, we were much more tension in the beginning of lockdown, and now we start to relax. But tension comes to our pocket. Money is so it's always tension somewhere. And any other question?
Hey, Jill, Martin. And John.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
It's from Helsinki.
Hello.
I would love to try Tomastic E string with loop, because I'm looking for a perfect one, and I'm not sure yet have I found it. So I would be happy to try one from you of Tomastic. So and the other thing I would like to say is once again to Jill, thank you for the experience in Cremona. It was amazing, no words. But anyway, Tomastic is welcome to Helsinki also. We would like to discuss with you some other stuff also, not only E-string. But I'll get back to you later if it's okay with you.
Of course, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both of you.
Thank you, Heidi. Some more questions?
John.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, I think I'm not muted for a change. I'm just interested, having the violin maker here is very interesting, because clearly a new instrument will behave in a certain way. And I would imagine that as time goes by, even quite a short amount of time, the instrument will start behaving differently. And I wonder how that affects the choice of string as a new instrument matures. It's going to have an effect on the kind of string that is appropriate for that instrument, I would think, I would imagine. Wonder whether you could just say something about that for him.
Well, my experience is not quite that an instrument that's new changes, like it changes, of course, after 2 months It is
Yeah.
kind of settled. Yeah, it's this is the biggest change. But this is not about the strings really. You could use string for completely fresh instrument. You would maybe use strings that are a little bit more rounded because it's a bit rougher in sound in the beginning, just a tiny little bit. But actually, it's tension again. Here we are again with the same topic. When you have an old instrument, no matter what, like a 300-400-year-old instrument that was lying for 10 years without tension, without strings, it will behave exactly the same as a new instrument in the first 2 years. It will change completely in sound. So it's not really that the new instrument changes like differently to an old instrument once it is played in after 2 months.
Right.
So yeah, this is what I would say. But I actually, for my new instruments, I like to use Rondo strings by Thomastik Infeld, because they have this this very chory sound where you can really find a very a very good speaking sound, which projects very well. So these are the actually not quite round sounding instruments, sounding strings, like what I said. It's not really needed. People don't really want that. If you wanted that, you could maybe use Peter Infeld, which are a bit more like round in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Can I just say one more thing just about Thomastik? I've been a part of ESTA for a very long time, and I'm part of ESTA UK, and Thomastik's support for ESTA UK and ESTA International has been nothing short of outstanding over the years. It has been amazing. And I just want to record in front of a larger audience our gratitude to Thomastik for the wonderful support that you've given us over the years, and particularly this year when the Portugal conference got into clear difficulties with the virus, and many sponsors would have pulled out. And the fact that you, and also Per Astra actually, have kept faith with the Portuguese ESTA, I think is a wonderful tribute to the kind of approach you have to the whole sponsorship issue. Just wanted to say that.
It's very
Thank you, John. Thank you, Thomastik.
Thank you. I'm just a representative, and it's the philosophy of the company, and I will forward your thanks and your kind words to our marketing, to our boss, to Mrs. Infeld. And I'm proud that I can work at such a company which over generations supported art, supported artists. And when I was a young guy studying, I was so impressed because I know from many friends, colleagues who didn't have money to do a CD recording, to get support for a concert. Thomastik was supporting, I think, almost everybody. Now it's not so easy because we have millions of people who need support. So we have to focus on the more important ones. And I'm so happy that the company decided to sponsor your the ESTA, your meetings, and also the congresses. And yeah, I'm proud to be a part of this. And I want to keep in this philosophy and support with my possibilities. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Are you already a member of ESTA, Attila?
Once again, please.
Are you already a member of ESTA?
Not yet, but this could change.
We invite you for the Portuguese.
Me personally?
If you want to choose one branch, choose the Portuguese one.
Okay, okay, good. Thanks.
Of course, everybody that is listeners on YouTube, you know, ESTA is a community of string teachers all over Europe that exists long time ago. It was created by Judy Menuhin, Max Rostal, very interesting and creative people. And if you are not a member, become one. there are a branch in your country, and it will be very easy to join us for the ESTA family. Maybe we are ready to the end because time flows. There are attention in time now. So maybe we have time for a last flash question. Someone want to make some?
I think Bruno has.
Bruno.
Hi, Bruno.
Hello,
Well,
good evening to everybody. I clicked the wrong link, so I have been with you from the very beginning, but on the browser and not on the Zoom. And then Jill gave me the right advice to enter in this conversation. I wanted to say hello to everybody, but I wanted to thank John for having mentioned the gratitude that ESTA has to Thomas Infeld. Because I know how much all different branches received from this company, and this is not only to be measured in terms of money. It is also the idea of the support which is behind that very often is also very, very, very important. And so that is, I want to add my word to what John was saying before. Of course, he says it much better than I do, but that is a problem of language. Also, I was following the discussion with the strings, and I think that with humidity, change of temperature, the element in our playing that really changes is the instrument more than the strings. And the instrument that becomes broader, bigger, fatter, and then shrinks when it is dry, and that makes a big change. And of course, to have strings that can adapt themselves to these different conditions could be an ideal solution. But I would say that also the players somehow. About sound, I'm very fascinated by the piano, From this point of view, the same piano played by two different pianists has a different sound. Because this happens and in a very clear way. And then there is also, the elements are much less than the ones that we have: speed, pressure, point of contact, and so on. So I think that the good string is the one that really gives us, the players, the possibility to express ourselves in the production of the sound, because each one of us, when does like this on the string, is somehow aiming for a sound ideal. And it is a constant correction to what we hear, to what we would like to hear. So that a good string is a string that gives you this possibility of being extremely flexible in our sound research. So thank you for the fantastic strings.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for your advice and for all your experience and knowledge. Everybody knows Bruno. Bruno was president of ESTA Italy, and he is now the president of ESTA International. He is our president. Thank you, Bruno, for all your work and your inspiration.
It's an honor to meet you all. I'm very happy to meet you, and I, of course, will take your invitation, and I will get also a member and be a part of this big family.
Yes.
So just to finish, I have a last flash question for Gilles. But before I do it, I have to tell everybody that now we start to make a coffee break. What is that? When we finish our meeting, normally the friends of Portugal stay online on Zoom, and we just say, it was okay, it was not okay. You remember, this, it was interesting. So last week, we decided to open that for all the participants on Zoom, and it was very, very, very nice, because in a more informal way, we can speak one to each other and about whatever you want. So if you are a participant of the Porto 2020 ESTE conference and you have a link of Zoom meeting, you can come to this meeting even if you are on your YouTube watching us. You just come for the meeting if you want to have a little coffee break with us. For the others, if you want to join us, you can also register to the conference and become part of the team. So Gilles, in the end, I want to finish with you because I want, first of all, thanks all the help you had to us, because you sent very important information for us to organize the conference, that it was really big help. And now the last, I would say the last question that we didn't do for you, but we will do it now. And I think it will help also the future conference. If you organize the conference again, what would you make different?
Just about everything.
Oh, thank you. That's very synthesized.
In fact, I think I have to thank everybody for pushing me into this, because I had absolutely no skills, or I thought I had no skills, and I certainly had to learn them very quickly. And I hope I'm using them well now for ESTE Italy. By the way, there's a new website coming out that will have a lot of the information, photos, films, etc., from the Congress, but also a lot of other things. We're putting a lot of the information, our news from other ESTEs, like ESTE UK, which has so many brilliant things happening there now. I felt it was such a waste. All this investment in doing just one Congress, I really felt that that I could have become a professional after that experience. It almost killed me, but it has been an absolutely wonderful learning curve. Again, I'll add, I already talked about Thomastik, but you're absolutely right. I mean, they helped us enormously financially for Goodisman, the big event that could have gone wrong again, thanks to Goodisman, who turns everything to his advantage. He managed to turn what could have been more than, just as much as yours, let's say, the COVID, which was being stormed out in the middle of a piazza with hundreds of people playing the violin. He turned it into something even better. But again, Thomastik went beyond the Goodisman for us. I mean, we haven't got time here to go into it. And as you said, to do with their art collection, they're helping young artists, helping people, and also making it very easy for you. You know, not making it heavy or difficult or bureaucratic or whatever. So I join with John and Bruno in absolutely thanking Thomastik, and I think we've also got a certain rapport through this, which I'm very happy
Thank you
about.
very much. Thank you very much. It was very nice. And you know, if you want to see videos about the Cremona conference, you can go to ESTE Italy Facebook page or ESTE Portugal Facebook page. Also, we share these videos. And another video is on our YouTube channel, because Gilles was a presenter. And you know, every Monday, every Wednesday, we send a new teaser video to know another presenter and to appetize you for our conference and for all the experience and knowledge that is being to be shared about music and teaching. Thank you very much to being with us, watching us on YouTube. It's for you that we make this, and it's a really good feeling to know that people are interested about that and that we are trying to make something special. Thank you very much. Big thank to our principal sponsor, Thomastik in Phil, and to Pirastro, also our sponsor. They are still with us. They didn't give up, and they trust our job and our conference, Porto 2020. Bye-bye. See you next week. Bye-bye. Or see you Monday for the new teaser video. Bye-bye.